And now on the line is Aaron Guli, the President of the Irish Ice Hockey Association. Aaron, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cool. Aaron, today is my first time to do an interview on radio about ice hockey. Could you tell me a bit about your organisation and the development of ice hockey in Ireland over the years up until the present day, please?
I mean, technically ice hockey has been around in Ireland since the 70s, but it really took off more in the 90s. As far as really gaining numbers and traction, we became an official member of the International Ice Hockey Federation in the early 2000s. When the Dundalk Ice Rink was open for 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, roughly, we had over 1,000 members and 25 different teams competing. Since that has closed down, we obviously had a dip in numbers, but over the last 5 years, myself and the current executive we have been working a lot to do a lot of grassroots work, particularly with kids. We have 3 main youth clubs in Kilkenny, Cork, and Dublin. We have a new team just starting out kind of this year based in Mayo. So we're trying to really hit the geographic markers around the country. We've had our youth teams, or our national junior development team has been traveling all over the world. America, Canada, South Korea, Spain, Iceland, England. We had under 14s in Slovakia. So the next step has been for us is really getting our men's senior and our women's senior team up and running. The men's senior team has competed in the IIHF Development Cup the last 2 years in Andorra and Germany. Our women's team was in a tournament in Latvia last year, and in about a month we'll be competing in one in Lithuania.
So there are ice hockey clubs. There's one in Dublin, Cork, Kilkenny, Mayo, and there's a couple in Northern Ireland, isn't there?
Well, the 4 that I named are the youth clubs. For senior clubs, we have a team in Dundalk. I suppose the Hawks are more kind of based out of Drogheda. We have 2 senior teams in Dublin, one in Kilkenny, and yes, a couple up in Northern Ireland, but they fall under a different jurisdiction than us.
Okay, and the biggest problem in the Republic of Ireland in relation to ice hockey, isn't it that we don't have an Olympic-sized ice rink?
Well, we don't have even an NHL-sized ice rink. I suppose we don't have an ice rink. That is, yes, indeed, our biggest problem. Right now, mostly the kids avail of the temporary holiday rinks that open in mid-November and close mid-January. So they get 2 months on those ice surfaces. But the adults pretty much have to travel up to Belfast to play. And the times for that are really not conducive for people. They're very late at night. So yeah, right now that is our biggest stumbling block, is not having an ice rink.
And you mentioned Belfast, the ice rink up there. There are 2 Olympic-sized ice rinks in Northern Ireland, aren't there?
There is. There's the rink in Dundonald, which we use, and there is what are they called now? The SSE Arena, but we're not able to use that.
Am I right in saying that not having an ice rink in the south, in the Republic, has hindered the participation of Irish teams taking part in the Ice Hockey World Championship?
Yes, that's true. That's correct. The IIHS, which is our global governing body, their rules are that you are not allowed to participate in world championships if you do not have a permanent ice rink. So the last time we were allowed to compete was, how long? It's at least 5 years ago now. So yeah, it's their rules. You have to have a permanent ice facility in order to compete.
We have a senior men's and women's Irish national team, though, do we, for ice hockey?
Yes, that's correct.
And are there players from Northern Ireland on the team also, or what's the story?
Yeah, I mean, the past teams had Northern Irish players. Again, there's rules that go with having those players because Northern Ireland technically falls under Ice Hockey UK. So there's certain rules that they have to go by in order to play for us. So essentially, either you need to do an international transfer, which I won't bore you with all of that talk, but you would have to do that and then live in the Republic for 2 years, which is fairly impossible for everyone, or most people in the North. The other is if they have only an Irish passport.
Okay.
But recently, in our trip to Germany in November, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 Northern Irish players.
Okay. Could you tell me a bit more about the World Championship?
As far as
like I was reading, it's interesting. There are actually 3 different divisions in it. Are there?
Yeah, well, technically 4.
Okay.
Because they don't really label the top division. So that would be the America, Canada, Russia's. Then from there it goes down to Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. So if we were to get back into World Championships, we would have to go for a qualification round to get into Division 3.
And I was reading on the internet that a few years ago, when our senior men's team was in Division 3, we were doing well in that division, were we?
Yeah, I mean, we were considered every year one of the top 3 teams. I think it was 2008. We gained promotion up to Division 2B, which was a very big step for us. But we always have competed very well in World Championships, and this, of course, has been with limited ice time. So, you know, I've always felt that we can have great success at both men's and women's if we had a permanent ice rink that they could train on.
Do we have any junior teams who, like a junior Irish national teams? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, technically we would have an under-18s men's national team. Anything below that, we have what we call our national junior development team. So they're not wearing the Irish jersey. We've called them the Saints, so they have their own separate jerseys. But the players know what that means. They know that this is taking a step up from your club that you might play on, and that you're going to go play internationally against either other international teams or other international club teams. But they don't usually get to wear the Irish jersey till they get at least to the under-18 stage.
We spoke about Northern Ireland a few minutes ago. Is there a national Northern Ireland team, or do they all play for do they play for the UK, or what's the story?
Yeah, I mean, for most of them, it would be Team GB, which would be the UK team. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, how many players play. I know there's one young lady whose father played for our men's senior team, and she, I believe, recently just competed for the GB under-18s at World Championships. But look, that's what players have the option up there, I guess, depending on their passport status, of who they would be eligible to play for, GB or ourselves.
Okay, am I right in saying that there has been, over the last, say, 20 years or more, a big overlap between roller hockey and ice hockey? Yeah,
there's kind of a symbiotic relationship between the two. When the rink closed down in Dundalk 9 years ago, certainly most, if not all, of the players went to inline to keep going, because there are obviously a lot of similarities. So, look, we're very supportive of inline, and, they are supportive of us. We work well together. So there's not, sort of a competition. It's, look, their sport is good for our players, our sport is good for their players. So we have that sort of relationship.
I played inline hockey for a couple of years when I was around 14, 15 years old, and I loved it. And me and my friends would have played ice hockey as well, but like there was no decent rink in Dublin at the time. There was Phibsborough, that was fairly small.
Yeah. And Dolphin's Barn. Yeah, I mean, look, that's if you remember Silver Skate in Phibsborough, that's basically the size of these holiday rinks that open up now around the country.
Okay.
So that's basically what our kids are currently skating on, you know. But look, like right now, I know those rinks, I think, close down generally this weekend. So then all of those teams will go back to training on wheels.
Okay. Am I right in saying as well that if you play ice hockey, it's a much faster sport than inline hockey?
It is, yeah. Certainly anything on ice, you're going to be moving much faster. But, you know, from what I've seen of inline rinks, just the size of them is much smaller. So, you know, they've got to work harder because things are in closer proximity. So you don't get as much speed. Whereas the ice is much bigger, an Olympic-sized rink, you've got, you know, bucket loads of space. So, you know, the overall speed is much faster. The shots are generally a bit faster, and so yeah, I would say overall it is faster.
And it's a very kind of physical sport, is it, ice hockey? Like you have to be strong to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, for the current kind of league that we have, if you want to call it that, for adults, cross-border cup, it's co-ed and it's non-checking. So they're not allowed to do, you know, full-on body checks that you might see when you're watching Belfast Giants or a professional team. Because that's just, look, that's for insurance reasons. You know, people have to go to work the next day. We don't need people trying to kill themselves on the ice, you know. But for regular hockey, with body checking and everything, yeah, it's a very, very physical sport. It's, you know, some would compare it to, you know, kind of hurling, just faster, you know. You see how hurling is when they're banging into each other and hitting each other and, you know, throwing shoulders. You know, that's exactly what ice hockey is, except you're moving at a faster speed, as is your opponent. So the hits can be substantially harder.
But the games in Ireland aren't full body check. They're more relaxed, are they?
Yeah, we call it non-checking. So I mean, look, there's bumping and there's, you know, people bang into each other, but you're not allowed to go out and intentionally throw a shoulder at somebody, if you will. As I said, just because we have two divisions, say the B division is a bit more novice players, so we prefer that they work more on their skills as opposed to being worried about, you know, getting hit and stuff like that.
I believe it's very tough it's called the NHL, I think, is it, in America? Like, it's very, like, there's a lot of fights and stuff in it. That's true, is it? Yeah,
well, the NHL would be considered the top league in the world. That's based in America and Canada. So that's where most of the top players go. The KHL in Russia would probably be considered the second best league. But yeah, fighting in professional levels is part of the game. So generally, if I get in a fight, say with yourself, we throw our punches, and either when you're tired or if somebody goes down, the fight ends, or if the referees break it up, and then you generally go sit in the sin bin for 5 minutes.
If there are any parents listening to this interview today who are thinking if we get an ice rink of their kids getting involved in ice hockey, is there anything you'd say to kind of allay their fears about the physicality of it, the fights?
Well, fights, look, for kids is completely not allowed. It's very frowned upon. We don't allow it. Even at the national level, so we'll say the international level. So if our men's senior team goes and plays, say, Andorra, there's not going to be fights because the IIHF rules are very strict about fighting. Fighting is more like, say, the Belfast Giants level or the NHL, or if you're going and playing in the German professional leagues. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for kids, there's no fighting. The most, besides the bumping into other kids or, the most physicality is really kind of falling down. So, when you're moving at a fast speed, granted, you're fully equipped, so you're not really going to get hurt, but, it's still a bit of a bang when you are going full speed and you fall down or something. So, that's the most, real physicality that kids would experience.
Okay, I think it's a bit disappointing in the sense that, like, a lot of, say, kids in Ireland playing ice hockey, they look up to American and Canadian Belfast Giants players, and like, if there's a lot of fights, it's kind of, I think it's setting out a bad image. What do you think?
Yeah, that debate has been going on. That debate's been going on for a while, particularly in America and Canada. The kind of impression that it gives on particularly younger kids. I know the NHL has been gradually kind of working away from fighting in the sport. I mean, it is still part of it, but if you look even 10 years ago, the number of fights, say the average fights per game, has dropped substantially over the last 10 years to now. So, it depends on who you talk to. Some people feel it's really part of the game, and that it adds excitement to the game, and it gets the crowd and people pumped up, and another section of people think it's a bad image for the game. So it's kind of one of those, either you're for it or you're completely against it.
Okay, well, if there are any players in the Republic of Ireland playing it there and they're playing at national level, they're not going to be getting into fights, so that's a good thing, I think, To come towards the end of the interview, Aaron, could you update us on any of the biggest things you and the IIHA are planning to do for the rest of the year, including which are a big campaign to try to get the Minister for Sport to bring in a full-size ice rink?
We're working on getting more of, as I said, our community development teams traveling around the world. Our women's senior team will be playing, as I said, in Lithuania next month. We'll be looking for our men's senior team to be competing in the Development Cup again in the autumn. So, look, we're constantly trying to provide as many opportunities for our kids and adults as humanly possible. As far as the ice rink goes, yes, we're currently working to try to reopen the Dundalk Ice Dome. If for some reason that may not happen, we are exploring other opportunities for possible rinks in the Dublin area. So, those will be more contingent on what happens with our meetings this month regarding the Dundalk. So I would be hopeful that we would have some sort of a rink open in 2019. But I say that tentatively hopeful because until contracts are signed and things are happening, it's still just being worked on.